anything. I just had
Okay,
my muffin.
yeah.
And the reality itself decided no more muffin, fuckhead.
Okay, but like,
But what if the muffin was never there?
so Forz, here's your problem, right? You need
Start
to look.
streaming before
Yeah,
you
the
get
stream
into
is
it.
on.
Okay.
You have your one cow, right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna whatever you're multiplying it by is how many groups of cows you want to have at the end, right? So let's say you have 10 cows, right? If you have 10 groups of cows, and then if you have 10 cows, and you want 10 groups of those cows, that's 10 multiplied by 10, right? So you're asking if you multiply by 0. So you have any number of cows, right? Pick a number.
Well, so are you saying that if I had one cow and I tried to multiply it by 0, that means I would have 0 groups of cows?
You would have zero groups of cows that are size 1.
Cow though, which is one group.
No, because he goes into the groups, and there are no groups, so he's gone. You killed him. You put him into the void.
This is why, as human beings, we are not allowed to understand the true nature of reality.
Well, it's because
It's because you never had cows because you had 0 groups.
Yeah, you had 0
I
groups.
had a cow. I decided I have this cow. I bought it. It's a fresh cow.
Well, then don't put it in 0 groups.
You slurped him up.
When you bought the cow, right? You had 1 times 1 cow. You had 1 cow in 1 group. And then you decided, what if I put him into 0 groups? So he just vanished out of existence.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
It does, because there's nowhere for him to be. If he was in the group, then he wouldn't be there.
This is quite literally first grade math.
He is the first group.
Yes, but you arbitrarily said there were 0, and therefore he cannot exist. It's a contradiction.
Wow, so they made a contradiction to the reality of fucking math?
Yeah, well, no.
It is literally first grade math.
I know, and I accept math, right? But it doesn't mean it makes sense.
It needs to make sense for all of the other math to make sense.
That's what I hate about mathematicians, man. They say that shit makes sense, and I'm just looking at them like, yeah, sure, that makes sense, my guy.
The thing is,
whatever,
I've gotten to parts of math that don't really make a lot of sense. You know, I've done calculus up till 3.
Somebody will look at a bunch of letters with a plus in the middle and go, yeah, that makes sense, man. I got the calculation down perfect.
Yeah, we do it all the time.
P divided by X, Y, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. Whatever you just said, I agree, man. That's a great calculation there.
Forz, you better live your whole life without ever hearing what a derivative is. Otherwise, you might explode.
I have educated myself in math, right? And I understand it, right? I understand how to use math, how math works, but I still refuse to accept it as a normal thing like everyone else does. Because it's not, if it's a universal truth, why does it not make sense in some parts?
Why can I not make an orange appear?
Because you're dealing with, like, 0 isn't really, like, a thing. It's the concept of nothingness, right?
The fact that there's a contradiction in the math itself, I feel like should say something about the universal truth of math.
Yeah, but no, the contradiction is in your statements, not in the math. The math always checks out. You made a contradiction in the universe where you said you bought a cow.
Math is supposed to help us calculate reality. That's why we use math.
Forz, you are literally living in, like let's see,
we literally use math in modern society to calculate the reality of the universe or whatever. Like,
you're living in about the 3rd century BC.
No!
Or 4,000 years ago, we're not really sure.
Just because I'm bringing up what they questioned back then, because they were smart enough to realize something was up.
You know, you're living in a re-0 world where you're like 0, you can't have a nothing. That doesn't make any sense.
I'm just saying, if I have a cow, and then I say, oh, well, a cow multiplied by 0, I guess that means I still have a cow, because the cow is still there, but the universe like, nope, sorry.
No, because you multiplied him by 0. You said...
I multiplied 1 by 0, which means I still have 1!
Alright, Forz, let's... You know how multiplication is the same depending on the order, right? let's take it a different perspective and see if this would make
Zero
sense, right?
divided by 1 is
You
0.
you have 0 cows, right?
Yeah.
You are going to decide to put them into one group. How many cows exist in the one group?
There are no cows.
Okay, right? So that's the same thing as saying I have 1 cow and I'm going to put it into 0 groups.
No, listen. 1 is like a contradiction in the sense of like, yeah, I have 0, so if I try to put it into a group, it wouldn't exist. But the other is I have 1 cow and then I have 0 groups. But if I have the cow, I should have 1 group.
Yeah,
So
but you arbitrarily said there are 0 groups of cows.
So why is the result of it not? Why is the result of the contradiction of 1 multiplied by 0 to say, oh, it's 0?
Okay, let's look at it this way, right? You want to buy a stick of gum that costs you $5.
And then Rick and Morty comes in and shoots you and grabs the gum.
The gum costs $5. You have $0. How many gums can you buy?
0.
All right, you have $500, and you go to the store, and they have no fucking gum there. How much gum can you buy?
That's not the same.
Those are the same thing.
It's not the same.
It's what it says in the title. We made it to the Shadowlands, and Forz lost his ability to do math.
No, I still know how to do math. Don't ever think that I'm sitting here like being like, dude, math is fucking dumb.
Okay, he's forgotten the concepts of 0 and what it truly means to our world.
I get how like everything in math works and how it's like how we use it for all the different things and like how math itself works. Because I have literally finished my education. Okay, I'm educated in math. I get it. But I mean, sometimes you gotta look at math and be like, damn, you're supposed to represent the most accurate like thing we can ever measure in reality. We use math to measure reality, and you still contradict yourself.
Well, like 0 is hard to deal with in realities. Like, similarly, negative things are hard to deal with unless you get into the idea of debt, right? Like, how do you talk about dividing 8 cows into -8 groups, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it makes sense if you have -8 cows and you divide it into 8 groups, because like, then you can see there's a negative cow there.
It's fucking great, and it, like, it has helped us advance our society to a level.
Why haven't you joined the game? We've been here for 8 minutes.
Because I didn't know you started it.
Because he multiplied it against 0.
The game's not real anymore.
Oh yeah, Miffin was listening apparently.
Yeah, that's who I was talking to. You think I was just saying those things into the void?
I don't know. I thought you were talking to me.
This all started from me saying that if you buy it, if you have, you know, like 8 of something and divide it by itself, you get 1. And he's like, it should be 0. Which is like the opposite of where we are now, where 0 honestly shouldn't exist in his world.
No.
Dude, let's be real. This all started, he fucking exploded when he found out that -8 divided by -8 got +1.
Like what? It's the same of like 8 divided by 8 somehow turns into 1, where I'm like, what?
Yeah. -8 divided by -8 makes sense though. Right?
But then I did realize, like, again, when we came back to me understanding what multiplication and division does, I now understand, like, oh yeah, it makes sense now because I remember like the rules of multiplication and division and how it works. And sure, that also works in 1 like, what was it, 1 multiplied by 0 or 1 divided? I think it's either or.
Object catches your eye.
Actually, is there a difference between 1 multiplied by 0 and 1 divided by 0?
Is this the moon?
The universe.
A thick layer of dust.
1,
Divided by 0 is not allowed.
It's nothing. We
So much for
broke
protection
math.
from the
Yeah.
It just says wrong on my calculator.
Because like what you're talking about there is you're saying like that's where your idea of the cow disappearing comes into not making sense, right? Because what you're saying is you have one cow, you know the cow exists, right? And you're trying to divide him into 0 groups, right? How many cows exist in the group? There's an infinite number of cows. It can't exist. It's impossible. You cannot divide by 0. It's one of the rules of mathematics.
Yeah, I know, whatever, like...